everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing well. So today we've got a new makeup tutorial. Hi my loves, welcome back to my channel. So as you can already tell, I'm going to be creating this creepy clown look for Halloween. I've got my best friend Natalie in the house helping me out today, so I hope you guys enjoy and let's jump right into it. The first thing I'm doing is taking a spoolie and brushing up all of her eyebrow hairs because I'm going to be sticking down her eyebrows. I'm taking some Spirit Gum, I believe this one's by Nye, and applying this all over her brows, brushing it back and forth and up and down, making sure to get into all of the brow hairs. And I'm going to wait for that Spirit Gum to get tacky, and then I am taking a spoon and using that to press her hairs down. I know it looks like I'm hurting her, but I promise I wasn't really pressing that hard. But you just want to make sure that all those hairs are sticking down, or yeah, stuck down, and none of them are sticking up. And I find the spoon's really the best way to do that. Next, I'm taking some 3rd degree silicone molding compound, and I'm taking equal parts of part A and B and mixing them together onto my palette. And then I'm going to use this to sculpt out the smile. So I'm using this to sculpt out the smile because I really want it to have like a kind of cut open scabby look. And so I'm pulling the 3rd degree up into a point, starting from the corner of her mouth and moving upwards. We don't want this line to be straight, we want it to be quite bumpy and quite raggedy because it looks like the mouth has been cut open. So now it has pretty thick eyebrows, so a few of the eyebrow hairs were still sticking up, so I decided to take a bit of that 3rd degree and just apply it on top. I also wanted this to give me the effect of kind of, how do I explain it, like hooded eyebrows. I saw a photo of a creepy clown with like hooded eyebrows where they just looked really big and made their eyes look a little bit more sunken in, so that was the look that I was going for. I am just applying that 3rd degree over her eyebrows, making sure that the edges are blended into her skin so they're not lumpy, but it's alright if the top has texture because, you know, that was the look I was going for. So this is pretty funny. I got Nat to frown and I used some liquid latex because I really wanted to try and get that wrinkly look, but it didn't really work out, so you can skip this step if you like, but we just let that dry, let it all dry. And then I am taking Nye Clown White. I think this is like a face paint. This is pretty thick, so I think you can just use just a normal white face paint. But this doesn't have to be too perfect. You can just apply this quite messily because that is the look we're going for. And yeah, I'm using a spongy wedge thingy and I'm just applying this all over her face, not being too particular and not doing it too neat. You want to also apply that over the 3rd degree, making sure you get all areas. There were also some really hard to get areas on top of the 3rd degree, like the Clown White wouldn't go through some of the bumps and texture, so I just grabbed my Makeup Forever Flash palette and I used the white from that and I went over all those little bumps. I am making sure though that I do go over the 3rd degree quite well because I don't want any of the silicone to come through. I'm then taking this Nye Super White powder. We started laughing here because Nat's teeth looked really yellow against the white, but yeah, it was really funny. So I'm taking that Super White on a powder puff and I am just using that to set in the white face paint. Moving on to the face, I've taken this L'Oreal Superliner and I'm going to begin tracing out her eyes with this. I first started filling in the lid and then moving on to the lower lash line, I'm tracing out the points of the eye and yeah, just making sure that it is traced out and it is looking how I want it to look. I did not do this too neat. I made sure that it looked really messy because we don't want it to be like a neat clown. We want it to be like a really messy, dirty looking clown. I ended up switching to the black in my Makeup Forever Flash palette just because it was a little bit easier to fill in all the areas of the eye. But then I am just taking that eyeliner again and tracing out the top point of the eye and then filling it in. As I mentioned, you don't want to do this too neat. You don't want this to look neat at all. You want it to look really like messy and yeah, it makes the clown look a little bit dirtier and not as funny. It makes it look a little bit more creepy. But yeah, I just went in with that same eyeliner and filled in those points and made sure it was looking the way I wanted. Also, below the bottom point, I added a little dot. And I just made sure that the inner corners were filled in and it all just went well together. I took that same eyeliner pen and drew on the eyebrows. I made them kind of like worried eyebrows, so like big arches on top of her eyes. And then I took a Morphe angled brush and the black from my Makeup Forever Flash palette and went over them just to darken them up a little bit. Moving on to her lips, I've taken the red from the Makeup Forever Flash palette and I'm using this to line and fill in her lips. So just making sure to get the corners of her lips and filling them in with the red. And then I am slowly, as I'm filling in the lips, I'm taking that into the slits of the cuts that we created. So I'm only taking the red and filling in the inside of that, making sure just to get the inner part of it and not getting it on the outside. And just making sure that I get both sides the same. It doesn't have to be 100% even because, like I mentioned, it's a creepy clown and nothing has to be perfect. But then I am also taking a bit of the black from the Makeup Forever Flash palette and a thin liner brush, and I'm using this to line the outer corners of her mouth to further define the mouth and the lips and pretty much the whole smile. So I'm taking this and I am going all around, making sure to go on the outside of the silicone cuts that we created. After finishing lining the lips, I'm then taking a matte black eyeshadow and I'm using this to set the cream product on the lid. Because it is a cream product, it does move around a little bit, so I just mattified that. And then I am taking the red from the Makeup Forever Flash palette as well, and then I'm using this to draw on the nose. So just drawing on a little circle onto the tip of her nose, and I am going to fill this in with the same red. I'm then going to take the same black that I've been using from the Flash palette, and I'm using this to outline the circle of the nose, making sure to get this part quite particular and quite perfect and straight. And after I've lined the nose, I'm then going to take a little bit of the white, and I'm going to use this to kind of add a little bit of a shine detail, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to draw a line and a little white dot just to give the nose a little bit of a definition. I'm then taking some Nye Fresh Scab and I'm using this to create that gory cut. So I'm taking this onto the end of a spatula and applying this onto the silicone cuts that we created. So making sure to follow that line and yeah, just making sure that it all goes well together and making it look really gory and bloody, like it's actually been cut. Taking this Illustrator Effects palette, I'm mixing these two blood shades together and I'm going to apply these into the cuts to make it look a little bit more realistic. I felt the Makeup Forever Flash palette red looked a little bit too fake for my liking, so I wanted to make it look a little bit more realistic, so I added this. I'll leave the exact name of the palette and the shades that I used down below. These paints are alcohol activated, so yeah, they're a little bit more fun to use. I'm then taking Nye Thick Blood and I'm applying this into the cut. So after the paint has dried, I am applying this directly into that and I'm applying this all over her lips to make it look like it's bleeding and it's still, you know, freshly cut. So yeah, I'm just doing that with the same spatula that I used before, making sure to get this all over her lips as well. To finish off the eyes, I've taken the Urban Decay Electric palette. I'm first starting off with the darker purple shade and I'm applying this to the bottom of the eyes with a angled brush. I'm applying this on its own firstly and then blending it out with a pencil brush. I'm then also taking the lighter purple shade and using it as a kind of gradient to blend out the darker purple, blending it outwards and also blending it upwards so it kind of looks like the color has been smudged upwards, like the clown has been crying or something. And then I am taking the same angled brush and I'm taking the blue shade from the palette and applying this to the inner corner of the eye, and then with that same pencil brush that I was using before, I am blending that out to make it look really smudged and messy. Lastly, I'm taking the lightest green shade from the palette and I'm applying this to the outer corners of the eye, blending this out, making it look really smudged and really imperfect, and not really making it too opaque, but just enough for the color to be there. And the very last step, which is the fun part, I'm taking some Fleet Street drying blood, dipping a clean spatula into the bottle and holding it above her head so it drips down. And yeah, creating some gory blood drips, and also applying that around her mouth and letting it slide down so it looked like she's, you know, eaten a human or something. But yeah, you just want to make sure that it is all dripping down. You don't really want the blood to stay in just one place. You want it to drip down and look really creepy. But yeah, that is it. We are done. You just want to chuck on your wig, your costume, and that is that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I had so much fun filming it. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. And yeah, like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in my next video. Happy Halloween, guys!